Hello, YouTubers, and welcome back to another episode of The Grandstand here on the Ohio Patriot Education Network YouTube channel. I am, as always, your host, AR, the Ohio Patriot. And for today's episode, we're going to talk about our official unendorsement of current U.S. Senate candidate, Bernie Moreno, and exactly why we're going to be endorsing his ass in the coming days, or I should say right now for the coming race here in 2024. So basically, several different things happened in the last few days, and we made sure to get a couple things out of there to where we want to make sure that we unendorse this man because there's some stuff that's recently come to light that is not okay. And it's going to be one of these situations where going forward, if I do any endorsements under the network and stuff like that, it's going to be at least a 2 or 3 month wait just on principle to show, like, hey, we're going to do this, probably endorsement or whatever, somebody at some point. It's just going to be a while before we, do something, because just in case they see some dumb shit is what it is, just in case they do something real stupid that I'm like, oh my god, did I really endorse that fucking person? Like, why did I endorse that person? Kind of thing is what it is. And that's the thing. I thought Moreno, truthfully, I'm gonna say, look at this man. I thought the dude was on the fucking level. I thought he was a good dude, and I thought he was a good candidate, etc., etc. As it turns out, I was completely fucking wrong about that one. Thought the dude was. Oops, sorry. The biggest thing is, though, when you look at Bernie Moreno legitimately, he is a basically used car salesman. That is the truth of the matter. The guy is a used car salesman. He is a wannabe fucking political guy or whatever. He really doesn't give a fuck, you know? And for some reason, the comments are not coming through StreamYard right now for this, which is weird because I'm looking on the YouTube side right now and I'm seeing comments coming in on the YouTube side, but I'm not seeing ones coming in here on the StreamYard side. I don't know. Maybe it's because I redid the thing here or whatever. I'm also not seeing the amount of people actually watching today, which is weird. So, yeah, very, very strange on that one. But anyway, so the entire point I'm trying to make, though, is Bernie Moreno is basically a used car salesman. He basically came out of the woodwork as a car dealership owner is what it was. And it was a few months ago, and I'm going to go into a whole pretext on this whole thing of why we're unendorsing Bernie Moreno and why we're not endorsing anybody for the race yet is what it is. So about 4 months ago, give or take, it was like early December of 2022, you had current Ohio State Senator Matt Dolan, who's going to be running in the U.S. Senate race as well. He also failed to win in 2022 there as well. He should have been thrown out of office right then and there for trying to retire office. What it is, do the same thing like everything else across the line with these career politician people is what it is. So basically, when you look back at Matt Dolan's history, Matt Dolan in 2014 tried to unsuccessfully run for the Ohio State House as a Democrat in a very Republican district. He learned the hard way, no, we're not going to accept you as a fucking Democrat. So what did he do? In 2016, Dolan came back and he tried to basically run on Trump's coattails. He wasn't a Trump guy either, for that matter. He was basically just some fucking rhino sack of shit at the time, still is today, who was trying to run on Trump's coattails, was able to successfully do so, and get the people in that area to do a down ticket Republican ticket for 2016, which is unfortunate, because that's why I talk about all the time. Like, you should never vote down ticket, because then you end up with scumbag sacks of shit like Matt Dolan in the office, dude. So forth and so on. So anyway, so you had Dolan do the same bullshit in 2020 to get back into the House Senate again for re-election. Then last year, at the end of the last General Assembly, you had him basically use the Senate Finance Committee chair ability to try to push through gun control. Which, how the fuck are you going to try to do gun control as a finance chair of the state Senate? Is what it is, dude. Makes no sense at all to me for that committee. Nor does it make sense to anybody else for that matter, unless your whole end game is to be a fucking sack of shit and do all kinds of shady shit to get in the office, is what it is, dude, and then scumbag everybody is what it is, take away our gun rights and everything else like that. Which is what basically Senate Bill 357 would have done. And of course, he, conveniently named it 357, knowing that that's a fucking handgun caliber is what it is. So basically, you had Dolan scumbag everybody. Thankfully, we defeated his ass. I've been calling for months on the General Assembly to toss his ass out of it right now, based on that alone, because he should be in jail right now, honestly, for the shit he's pulled. For deprivation of the code of law, for oath breaking, etc. And so basically during that same time, this past January or so, I started calling on Bernie Moreno because I saw him doing stuff on Twitter. There's what it was. And I was like, dude, you should run for the U.S. Senate is what it is. Thinking like, okay, I know Moreno was like early stage dude in the 2022 primaries and then jumped out really early is what it was, because he figured like, oh, there's like 10 people here or whatever, like I'm gonna jump out early is what it ends up being. And so that's what he basically did. He jumped out way early in the whole thing, and then what you ended up having was you had him turn around and now join this 2024 race very early on, which he might jump out again, honestly, for all the fuck I know at some point. The entire point of the matter is he is doing things that at first I thought were going to be good, but now in this recent thing that he had in the last day or so, it just sounds really fucking dumb. Like the shit that he's doing now is just dumb as shit, honestly, dude. And we're going to talk about that right now, honestly. And this is exactly why I'm unendorsing him right now, for this whole reasoning right here, which is you have Ohio Senate candidate calls for reparations for white people, but there's a catch. As liberal states and municipalities are exploring the idea of reparations for African Americans, one U.S. Senate candidate in Ohio, Bernie Moreno, who is vying to oust Sherrod Brown, a scumbag cheater from 2018, floated giving reparations to white Americans, but not all white Americans. 100% Fed Up reports Bernie Moreno, an owner of a chain of car dealerships across the Midwest, advocated for giving reparations to descendants of Union soldiers who died during the Civil War. Moreno noted that something like white soldiers dying to free black slaves has only happened in the United States of America, which is an absolute bullshit lie, dude. It's happened all across this fucking world, dude. It might have been America that did it first in the, actual Civil War that we had, the original one, the first Civil War, because we're gonna have a second one pretty soon is what it's gonna be. But there's been soldiers who have been dying for decades now across countries, mostly African nations, to free people who were in slavery and other things like that from rebellions and whatnot. So, yeah, you're just an idiot, Moreno. And the biggest problem I have with Bernie Moreno here is he knows nothing about U.S. history, is what it sounds like. He knows nothing about the First American Civil War and what it was actually about, which, by the way, for those interested in that one whole thing, there was a little bit of slavery involved in it, but that's the problem. It wasn't the only fucking thing. In fact, it was like a secondary thing in the Civil War. What the actual First American Civil War, the 1800s, was about, dude, was 100% about states' rights. It was literally 10th Amendment shit is what it is, dude. You had the southern states, all these Confederate states and stuff like that, realizing, hey, we actually have the corner market when it comes to like goods and shit over here. Like we're growing all these crops and stuff like that. And the North's like, we're going to tax you out of business pretty much is what it is. And they're like, fuck no, you're not. And then it basically turned into a whole thing where that's what started the actual Civil War is what it was, dude. And then of course you had things where they were like, the North was trying to like basically save face is what it was. And be like, well, there is a lot of slaves down there in the South. I mean, there's also some up here in the North, but yeah, there's a bunch of slaves down there, so let's make it about slavery. And by the way, I'd like to point something out to you for that matter. After Abraham Lincoln literally signed the fucking end of slavery, there was still slaves in the northern states, motherfuckers. Maybe you should learn that, Bernie Moreno, that was actually still slavery going on in northern states after the fucking Civil War, you dumb motherfucker. And that's exactly why I'm not endorsing your ass, dude. Because you're too fucking stupid to even know U.S. history for that matter. And you're going to sit there and try to give reparations to descendants of people who, by the way, every person involved in the Civil War was an American citizen, you dumbass. So you're essentially saying, give reparations to the descendants of American citizens who were killed by other American citizens. Which is, by the way, why every single person, both Confederate and Union soldiers back in those days, is considered an American war hero. No matter how you look at it, dude. So, yeah, it's just fucking dumb, dude. Like, it's just, oh my God. Like, it just fucking infuriates the shit out of me, dude, that I ever endorse this guy. But I can make it right, and that's what I'm doing right now. I'm making it right by endorsing Moreno right now. So, anyway, I'm going to check some. For some reason, it's still not coming in on the StreamYard side. I'm not sure what the hell's going on right now, but I'm going to check on the YouTube side and see if there's any comments over there that I can talk about or whatever. So, let's see. Yeah, I see people commenting over there, but it's weird. Like, they're not. There's no comments coming up here on my side. It's really weird, StreamYard. What the hell's going on, man? The only thing I can think is maybe I had to redo this one. Maybe that's what it is. Like, it's not activating through properly or something like that. Who the fuck knows? But anyway, so going back to Moreno here. So, said Moreno is the second Republican to throw his hat in the ring Republican nomination for 2024 U.S. Senate race with Ohio State Senator Matt Dolan running, being the first to do a nomination, which, by the way, we already know for a fact that current Secretary of State Frank LaRose at some point in the next probably like 30 days or so is going to toss his hat in the ring too as well, so it'll be the third one then. I wouldn't be surprised if Josh Mandel made a return to this whole thing. I wouldn't be surprised if Mike Gibbons, the guy who lost hard last go around, I don't think he's going to run himself, but I think he's basically going to proxy to run. Is what it'll be. He'll get like a younger guy to run in his seat, if you will, and so that'll be like 5 people then, maybe even a chick for that matter. I don't think Jane Timpkin's going to run again, but I think there's definitely going to be a couple women jumping in this race for the Republican primary. And I could easily see there being like just like 2022, where there's like 7-8 candidates and stuff like that. And it essentially comes down to being like, again, just like JD Vance, who gets Trump's endorsement in the situation, which hopefully it's not Moreno, and hopefully it's not Dolan or anybody else like that, dude, because that's the last thing we need in the U.S. Senate right now. The last thing we need in the U.S. Senate right now is Matt Dolan, 100%, Bernie Moreno, about 80%, just based on what she's doing here with the stupid ass fucking campaign stop the other day. And then Frank LaRose is also not needed there as well, dude. The guy is a fucking idiot. He's a scumbag. The fact that he's still Secretary of State in Ohio is ridiculous. The fact that he's done nothing to actually address voter fraud in the state, which is clearly going on in every single election for the past like 3 election cycles, is absolute bullshit, dude. I've been calling him on Twitter for fucking like the last 6 months basically about that shit. I was like, dude, fucking deal with Sherrod Brown's 2018 shit. And he still has yet to look into that, by the way, after almost fucking 5 years as a current Secretary of State, dude. And it's like, Jesus Christ, buddy, like, why the fuck are you still in office after that shit? So, anyway, needless to say, I'm pissed off about it all, man. If I had the money to, by the way, if I was a multi-millionaire, if I did the lottery the other day, I would just jump in the race myself at this point, dude, and be done with it. But I don't want to piss away millions of dollars to get in this race and lose, is what it is. So, because that's what's going to take at the end of the day. But anyway. Yeah, it said Moreno jumped in the race. It said Moreno previously ran in the U.S. Senate race in 2022, spending a significant amount of his own money on promoting his campaign. He bowed out after meeting with former President Donald Trump, who ended up endorsing J.D. Vance in the primary, and Vance obviously won in the general election then. So Moreno touts himself as a, quote, outsider conservative, which really means a cuck-servative, and will be able to once again self-fund a significant portion of his own campaign. New York Post reports Ohio GOP Senate candidate Bernie Moreno proposes reparations for white people. Quote, they talk about reparations. Where are the reparations for the people in the North who died to save the lives of black people? How about we do no reparations, you fucking idiot? Like, seriously, dude. How about you take your reparations from your ass there, Bernie Moreno? How about that, buddy? Seriously, bro. Like, this is the entire problem right now, playing down to politics and all shit like that, dude. Is you have people doing that crap to try to make a fucking name for themselves. When in reality, they're just making themselves like a bunch of fucking dumbasses at the end of the day, because you're sitting there floating something that now you're basically, instead of doing it across the board kind of shit, now you're like, oh, well, it's only going to be for these people over here kind of thing. Okay, how the fuck do you even prove that, dude? How the fuck do you even prove direct descendancy is what it is, dude? And it's the same exact thing with reparations for black people right now. How the hell do you even prove direct descendancy from being a descendant of black slaves who were in slavery at the time? Which, by the way, there is a reason why the 14th Amendment of the Constitution gave birthright citizenship based on that shit alone, dude. And that, by the way, it should have, when it comes to birthright citizenship in this country, I've talked about it many times before, the way that it was written by the secondary people, which, obviously you have the founding fathers, which would be your Lincolns, or not Lincolns, would be your, Lincoln would be the secondary founding people is what it is. Your original founding fathers, which would be your Washingtons, your Jeffersons, your Ben Franklins, etc. And then you got Abraham Lincoln, Andrew Jackson, people like that would be the secondary kind of founding sons, essentially, of this country. And the problem is, though, it was those guys that were the ones that wrote the 14th Amendment of the Constitution. And instead of writing it correctly, which is what it should have been, which was when it came to birthright citizenship, it should have been descendants of slaves, etc., like that. Like, it should have been that direct phrasing or whatever. They did like a broad brush of it instead. And because they did such a broad brush of it, it's why you have illegal aliens come over to our country, jump borders every time, and then have their kids in our soil, and those kids have birthright citizenship by default is what it is, which is absolute bullshit and non-constitutional, dude, because you're allowing a child to be an anchor baby at that point when their parents have no legal right to be here in the first place. And because you now have them being given U.S. citizenship by default, you are now allowing their parents to eventually get citizenship in this country and fucking completely destroy our nation from the inside out, which is what we've seen for the last 50-something years now. Really, actually, it's more like about the last 60 almost years now. Back going back to 65 with the Hart-Celler Act is what it is. So, anywho. But, yeah, the entire point I'm trying to make, though, is it's fucking stupid because then you're just basically sitting there trying to pick out like a portion of people and stuff. And it makes me wonder, honestly, on that same vein of things, if Moreno himself has already done like an Ancestry.com test or whatever the case be and figured out that he actually is a direct descendant of some Union soldier and he has some reparations himself is what it is, dude. So if that be the case, then you should definitely bow to the fucking race of Bernie Moreno because it proves that all you're doing here in the situation is you are trying to use your own position of power potentially in the future to completely be an oath breaking sack of shit and do I'm trying to think what the terminology is now. It's actually a crime, by the way. It's a misdemeanor crime in all 50 states right now. And it would essentially be that's what it is. Misuse of position personal gain, that's what it is. It's the same exact thing that all these politicians do unless you don't be arrested for it, by the way. When you're misusing your position for personal gain to just like DeWine did with PPP loan stuff or whatever for the baseball team he was in Indiana back in 2020. Et cetera, et cetera. But anyway. It says Moreno, a Republican looking to challenge U.S. Senator Sherrod Brown, suggested the white descendants of Northern Civil War soldiers should be eligible for some form of compensation. Quote, we stand on the shoulders of giants, don't we? We stand on shoulders of people like John Adams, James Madison, Alexander Hamilton, and George Washington. That this group of people took on the largest empire in history. They said, no, we will not stand for this, and won, Moreno told supporters of the campaign event in the Buckeye State this week. Quote, that same group of people later, white people died to free black people. It's never happened before in U.S. history, but it happened here in America. Or sorry, never happened before in human history before. Wait, it never happened in human history before, but it happened here in America. It's not taught a lot in schools much, is it? Yeah, again, you know what else isn't taught in schools, Moreno? The states' rights fucking part of the whole thing I've been talking about for the last 15 minutes, dude. You never hear them talk about that in fucking schools, dude, because again, who writes history books? History books are written by the fucking winners, dude. It's why you'll have everything taken out of them. It's only when you actually look into historical research and you start doing historical research and find various fucking novels that are like this big and it's like a fucking leather-bound book that was a Confederate soldiers' actual journal from that time, or it's even some Union soldiers' book from that time and stuff like that, dude, where they're like, oh yeah, you know, I'm just out here fighting for my side in the North, and oh, this whole thing started over states' rights and stuff, and yeah, they're trying to make it about slavery now and shit like that. And that's what they talk about in those fucking journals too, by the way. Like, you have to look into that stuff harder is what it is, dude, to even find this shit out. And that's the problem. He doesn't want to do his job like that, dude. And it's like, if you're gonna try to run for U.S. Senate, dude, you're gonna try to run for such a power like that. Like, how the fuck are you gonna be able to sit there and honestly, with a straight face, say this kind of shit, dude? It's fucking ridiculous. Anyway, Moreno's direct quotes continued on, said, they make it sound like America is a racist, broken country because, again, it's cultural Marxism, dumb motherfucker. You name a country that did that freed slaves, died to do that. You know, they talk about reparations. Where are the reparations for the people in the North who died to save the lives of black people? Jesus fucking Christ, dude. Where are the reparations for people like me who got fucked over by Antifa and BLM? How about that, buddy? How about instead of doing stupid shit, Bernie Moreno, like top of reparations, how about you actually, I don't know, run a platform where you declare Antifa and BLM terrorist organizations that they've been forever is what it is, dude. How about, better yet, how about every American citizen who has had their businesses destroyed in the past 3 years by Antifa and BLM terrorists can legally sue their fucking organizations, what it is, dude, in massive lawsuits and take every dime that they have. How about instead you actually, I don't know, bring up Antifa and BLM heads on fucking racketeering charges that they've committed for the past 3 to 5 years is what it is. How about that, dude? Seems like a better thing to do right now. But again, this is why we're unendorsing Moreno for the U.S. Senate, dude, because he's a fucking idiot is what it is, and we didn't realize he's a fucking idiot until it was too late. So, you know, unfortunately, you know, things happen. Things do happen. And when you don't know what's happening to begin with, and you think the guy's on the level, you think he's a good dude, and you realize he's not, unfortunately, this is what happens, you know. I would drop a link out there to the thing, but for some reason, it's not allowing me to. Maybe I will actually and see if any other comments pop up then. Drop a link to the back chat here. See if it actually pops up in the outer chat or not then. do something real quick here. But yeah, needless to say, I have no idea who I'm actually going to vote for now. I really hope that somebody else just jumps in the race at this point. That's not, Dolan Moreno or LaRose. Honestly, that is like a good constitutional candidate that maybe is not 100% self-funded or whatever, but is, can be getting in there viably and shit like that. So I don't know. It's just BS to me entirely, dude, that you have Moreno doing stupid shit like this so early on. Because that's the thing, too, right? Like, it'd be one thing if I endorsed him, like, way early in this race or whatever, and then it was, like, a situation where this came out, like, 6 months to a year from now. And then I'm just like, fuck. Because the thing is, it's not like I haven't had to unendorse people before, man. I mean, look at fucking Joe Belistone's ass. Like, I endorsed that guy at one point for, like, 10 seconds is what it was. And then I realized he's a piece of shit, honestly. And then I realized very early on that he was actually one of the biggest scumbags in the entire Ohio governor race. And I was one actively calling for months, honestly, by the way, for his FBI indictment at this point. I still am to this day, and he still hasn't been indicted for that matter. In fact, the only thing that's happened to him currently is he's not allowed to run for office anymore in the next like 5-6 years or whatever it is, and then basically has to pay a bunch of money back to campaign fund theft is what it is, which is absolute bullshit because Joe Blystone should be in prison right now in Ohio, dude, for the shit he pulled there in the governor race. So should a bunch of other people for that matter too. Like I said with Sherrod Brown, looking back to that 2018, where he had 300,000 dead people added to the fucking voter rolls by his judge buddy a couple days before the election cycle, and then it won by that amount of votes roughly is what it was, 270-something thousand what it was then. And then you had the same time, Rich Cordry, who was trying to run against DeWine in 2018, pretty much used the same people as what it was, dude, to try to get a bigger boost in his numbers is what it was. So yeah, like there's a bunch of fuckery going on in the state, dude. I think honestly the reason that LaRose would not actually investigate the potential for voter fraud in the state is because of the fact if he did, it would not only prove that there is a shitload of Democrats that have committed the stuff, there's probably a few Republicans as well currently sitting in office that have done so as well. So possibly including DeWine for that matter, which I'm not saying he did in 2022 here, but I think he did in 2018 for sure though, because I think he did the same exact thing as Cordry did, where he used the voters that Sherrod Brown used. And yeah, you're basically having the same person vote for two people is what it is, dude, that's not even alive for that matter. And it's like, how the hell is that even legal? By the way, it's not legal at all. And it's 100% you should be in prison right now with handcuffs on you and going towards the cell to do a bunch of time now. So anyway, but yeah, it's a bunch of shit, dude. And I'm pretty much sick and tired of these fucking people that are just going to be career scumbags is what it is. That's what I could call them now, because half of them haven't even run for office at all anymore. The problem is, in their entire life, whatever they've done as a job or whatever, like in case Moreno would car salesmanship and stuff like that, it's just career scumbaggery is what it is, dude, for being a car salesman. And I'm not surprised he would say stupid shit like this, honestly, dude. Like looking at the man, looking at the potentiality for it and stuff like that, it makes sense he would say shit like that. And the problem I have is that I was stupid enough to endorse too early is what it was. And that's exactly what I'm saying right now. If I ever do endorse anybody in the future for anything, I will never do so immediately after they announce whatever. I will wait at least somewhere between 3 to 6 months to do so, because there is no reason to do an endorsement immediately on these people, because you never know if something stupid like this is going to happen again. And now you just, I'll say it like it is, dude. I look like a fool is what it is. I truly do. I believe myself. It was a foolish move for me to make, and it's why I'm rescinding it right now. I'm making a choice to, unendorse is what it is, because I should have never endorsed to begin with is what it was. At least not that quickly is what it was. So anyway, it does kind of suck though, because now it's like, okay, who else is going to be a potential candidate then? That being said, we're more than a year out right now from the primary. So who's to even say that we're going to make it to that point, dude? Who's to say that we're not going to be in a Great Depression by the end of this fucking year, honestly, and a potential civil war by the end of the year for that matter as well. So, for all I know, but by the time December rolls around, we'll be in a fucking second Great Depression and second Civil War, honestly, for that matter. You never know. But yeah, either way, I wanted to come out here. I wanted to make my voice heard and make my announcement of the unendorsement of Bernie Moreno for U.S. Senate race over the stupid shit that he said about reparations for the descendants of Union soldiers. And basically prove that, just like many in the fucking thing, he just wants power. That's all it is, dude. The guy just wants power. He wants power, and unfortunately, like many other people that are total scumbags, he'll say whatever fucking he needs to say to get in there. And it's not okay, bro. You know, at least with JD Vance, some of the stupid shit that he said, it can be looked over because of the fact that he's actually done stuff now. That's the big difference right now, right? You have Vance who may have said some stupid shit in the past or whatever, and then basically like corrected himself years later and been like, yeah, I fucked up. I made a mistake or whatever. Apologized for those mistakes that he made. And then turned around now, and in the 100 days or so he's been in office currently, has done great things for Ohio. You know, he's actually doing stuff to make it better. He's doing stuff to make this country better. Unfortunately, none of the things he's actually doing are going to actually, become law or anything else like that. Like the whole making English U.S. Official language. Because again, people don't give a fuck about that, dude. That's the problem with career politicians in office right now. You have people like, Mitch McConnell, et cetera, or Chuck Schumer, et cetera, there, who are holding the keys to the castle and are basically screwing people over from actually having better legislation come through is what it is to become law. And meanwhile, they themselves are trying to grab guns every chance they get because, again, their whole entire end game is to kill everybody is what it is, dude. Their entire end game is to democide Americans. They want modern-day Nazi death camps. They want modern-day Hitlerian, Stalin, Mao, Pol Pot, etc., dictatorships in this country. And the only way to do it is get disarmament, dude. It's democide is death by government, period, end of story. And unfortunately, when you have people playing domesticated politics and stuff like that, not even knowing U.S. history for that matter, it really fucking irritates the shit out of me as a voter at this point because you have these other people who will sit there and support Moreno and fucking, be spoon-fed his bullshit and fucking eat it up like it's fucking candy. And it's not. It's fucking stupid bullshit, dude. And honestly, this is exactly what I've said before, and I'll say it again. This is exactly why we need an automatic disqualification to receive power in this country, dude. Why we need a 20th Amendment of the Constitution that would be an auto DQ on holding office and running for office. And stupid shit like this right here that Bernie Moreno said, dude, should be an auto DQ for fucking even running for office, dude. He should be tossed out of this race entirely right now over that crap alone. Same thing with Matt Dolan. Matt Dolan, when he pulled that shit last year for the gun grab with Senate Bill 357, he should have been immediately tossed out of the U.S. Senate, immediately tossed out of Ohio Senate, and immediately tossed out of even running for office for U.S. Senate is what it is. So, anyway, unfortunately, we're not holding people's feet to fire like that. We're not actually doing those things because, it would essentially, the 20th Amendment would have to be all the people kind of thing. It would have to be us basically forcing it into place by forcing the hand, removing a shitload of current U.S. senators from office and demolishing either way into office is what it is, which unfortunately not until we're going to do that. Nothing's ever going to change. And that's exactly what we're heading towards a civil war in this country. Second one. And maybe this time, Bernie Moreno and people like him will realize that the whole thing was not, in fact, about fucking slavery and was mostly about actually states' rights and people wanting to not be taxed to death. Because that's the truth of the matter is, dude. When you look at what's going on in the original Civil War in this country, it was literally a states' rights issue and taxation issue. Just like how the original fucking Whiskey Rebellion after the First American Revolution was all about taxation, you dumbass. Seriously, look back into the Whiskey Rebellion. It was like the 1780s, 1790s, dude. You had a bunch of farmers who were growing rye and shit like that and everything else like that was used to make whiskey back in those days, who were then being taxed by George Washington and the Founding Fathers because they had to pay for the fucking actual American Revolution for the aid of the French and stuff like that and all their warships and shit like that back in those days. And so you end up having a bunch of farmers being like, no, fuck that, dude. And that's why you basically had Washington as the first president of this country. And by the way, the reason why George Washington is the best president ever is because he was the only president in the country ever in this nation to not have a political party behind him, because he was the first. There was no political parties back then. It was all Washington as American president is basically what it was, dude. It was him as the patriotic president, period. And so basically what you had George Washington as president at the time, during Whiskey Rebellion time period, that he was basically trying to be hands off. He was like, nope, let's have them, because it was at that time it was basically another states' rights issue as well in that point in time in history. And so you had Washington being like, no, we're going to throw our hands up on this one for a little while. We're not going to get involved in this. And then eventually it became a whole situation where you had escalation after escalation after escalation on both sides of the aisle and stuff like that, to where you had to have him intervene and stuff like that and declare some shit is what it was. Now, mind you, this was way back in the day before the Insurrection Act even existed. Insurrection Act, for those interested, was actually during Thomas Jefferson's presidency, and it was based on the fact that you had British warships and stuff like that back in those days who were fucking us over. And it was essentially the original reason the Insurrection Act was created was to basically be a whole. I believe there was like a prelude act to it too, if I'm not mistaken, which was basically about goods and carrying goods and stuff like that across our shores and shit, and using our waterways and things like that to do trading and whatnot. And I forget exactly what the trade thing was called offhand, but it was basically that was the prelude to that, and then it became the Insurrection Act after the fact. Which, ironically enough, the funny thing about the Insurrection Act was when Jefferson used it, then it failed miserably. The first go around was completely a failure, dude. And the funny part is when you look at the Insurrection Act today and stuff that's been used, like I think it was somewhere between like 25 and 30 times now or so, give or take. And almost every single time, it's been an absolute miserable failure, dude. Ironically enough, most of the times in the specifically 60s and stuff like that, it was used for civil rights issues, and specifically it was used based on racial issues is what it was, dude, because it was different states declaring things like when they had the kids walking into the doing the what do you call it now, segregation, desegregationing of schools and stuff like that. You had a bunch of people that were against desegregating of schools and stuff, and then you had basically the governors of those states then declare insurrection acts, and you had, I believe it was LBJ at the time or whatever, was the one that declared insurrections then and forced the hand of everybody in that situation then. And or actually no, come to think of it, it might have been Kennedy. I think it was JFK was the one that did that one specifically with the whole what's that called now? It was like the 9 kids at the schoolhouse door or whatever. And then you had, like I said, LBJ was the one after that. I think I believe, if I'm not mistaken, he was the one that was 1968 or time period or so, give or take, where it was you had like 5 or 6 different insurrection acts declared underneath his presidency at the time, in the time span of like a day or two, because it was all based on like Chicago race riots and stuff like that in the 60s. And like I think it was Washington D.C. race riots too, stuff like that. It was by the way, a lot of those race riots too were over the death of MLK. Unfortunately, what's funny to me is when you look back at that, even people are claiming it was death of MLK or whatever that caused all those. But then when you look at who was actually hurt the most in those, it was black people destroying their own neighborhoods and black-owned businesses back in those days. So, it shows you, almost 60 years ago, they didn't give a shit about themselves back then, even, dude. Or the people that own their neighborhood, businesses, and stuff like that. They don't. Today is what it is, dude. It's why you see black on black crime so much. It's why you see the fucking mainstream media refusing to cover the Sweet 16 party there in Alabama last weekend, because now it can be proven it was 6 black kids that did it, is what it is, dude. It was black on black crime. Everybody involved in there, both victims and criminals, were all black. And like I said from the jump on that thing, I believe truthfully that whole situation was over the fact you had a group of kids go in there, weren't invited, try to come in there, and the brother that was killed, of that girl that was the birthday girl that day, was like, get the fuck out of here, dude. And then they opened fire on him, his mom, and everybody else then. So it's a sad situation all the way around, man. It really is. And it's disgusting. The media not even refuse to cover the shit, dude. So anyway. But yet they'll make it about race when it makes sense to them, is what it is, dude. Just like how you had going to the other thing as well on that one with the little girl who was a little white girl and her family who were shot because a basketball fell into the black guy's property or whatever. And by the way, that dude should have been in prison anyway from December of this past year, because he beat his fucking girl with a fucking sledgehammer, dude, and wasn't immediately in prison for that shit. And it's like, how the hell are you not in prison for aggravated assault / attempted murder, dude? Like, fuck you. Like, that's a problem. That's a failure on our justice system entirely, dude, in this country. And so you had that happen and stuff. And then he basically shot this girl and her father and a bunch of other people then. And it was basically just, you had the mainstream media reported as man shoots family or whatever, instead of, black man shoots family and stuff like that. And then meanwhile, the flip side of things, you got that Ralph Yarl kid, and they're all like, black teen shot by white homeowner and stuff like that. Because again, that's how they try to racially divide this country, dude, is what it is. And that's why I'm sick and tired of all of it, dude. That's why I'm sick and tired of end politics and stuff like that. And yeah, if you're going to be a candidate in any race in this country that's trying to run into politics, Bernie Moreno, I'm not going to endorse your dumb ass because you're fucking stupid, dude, is what it is. So anyway, but yeah, that's pretty much where we're at for the day, though. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I'll be back later for another one, probably. If nothing else, I'll be in Honda's chat later tonight, hopefully, because I think he still has a strike from last week, but I think, as far as I'm aware, we're doing Rumble this weekend. So we better be doing Rumble this weekend because I really want to talk with the guys tonight. And yeah, I want to make sure we're actually doing something tonight then. So, but yeah, it'll probably be, if we're going to do anything, it'll probably be Rumble only stuff or whatever then. And then we'll be doing, hopefully I'll be back on Tuesday then with something here on YouTube or Rumble again then. We should have had Tuesdays one this past week, but I don't know why he didn't do it. He just didn't do it, is what it is. I think maybe it's because it would be a pain in the ass to do Rumble only or whatever then. And he's decided against it then. But yeah, hopefully we'll do it tonight then for the Gay Frog chat. But other than that, that's pretty much where I'll be at tonight, hopefully, in the next like 6 hours or so, give or take. But yeah, other than that, that's where we're going to be for the day. And if I don't come back tonight and do anything else, I'll be going and doing some stuff tomorrow maybe. We'll be talking more about Tara Mosley's dumbass and why she shouldn't even be in the Akron mayor race right now, or in the city council for that matter, because she is literally pushing shit to allow BLM terrorists to destroy the city of Akron right now, dude. And she's a dumb bitch. So is everybody else in that race, too, for that matter. You have 7 different Democrats, including her dumb ass, in that Akron mayor's race, and none of them should be able to hold office at this point, dude, because they should all be disqualified from the running right now, based on the fact that they're cucking for fucking dead criminals, specifically Jalen Walker, and trying to justify the actual terrorism that BLM and Antifa terrorists are out there doing in the city of Akron, and then trying to claim, oh, it's outside agitators doing it. No, it's not. It's the fucking people in your goddamn city that your fucking voter base is doing that shit, dude. And the reason you're not calling out for that shit is because you know for a fact they're going to use their fucking votes to get into office, you fucking cunts. So, anyway. And by the way, the people shouldn't even have votes anymore because it should be fucking felons in the state of Ohio for doing felony terrorism charges and stuff like that, dude. But anyway, I digress, and I'll be back later to talk about that more. But until later, I'll see you all in the next one.